Yeah. Okay. So very good evenings for all of you. Um, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So
Waalaikumsalam.
basically, for today, I would like to give you some overview for our lecture from the first meeting and until the end of the meeting. So, so the topic of this lecture is the introduction, the futures and change in international legislation. So, for today, basically there are two issues which would be delivered. First is a contract, and the second one is some international convention issues. So a contract is basically we have at least 80% of attending. Yeah. So if we have 14 meeting, that's mean that the 80% of 14 meeting. So you only allowed probably around 2 or 3 meetings. It's not for attending the lectures. And the second one is hopefully the most important one for this lecture is the honesty of make some assignment. Therefore, the plagiarism is a very important issue. So we propose that we don't have any plagiarism to make some reporting. So the important one you have to concern how to avoid plagiarism. One of the way is probably that you are making some citation for the source of the references. Yeah. So any references shall be make some citation. And the third one is if we are conducting the offline meeting, the allowance is around 5 minutes for coming leads. And also there is a percentage for marking. Mid test is 35%, then final test is 35%, and the assignment is 30%. So all of the marking will be 100%. So the assignment is at least we are conducting 2 times of the assignment. Then before we are starting the outline of this lecture, the first we should appoint the coordinator of the class, because the first time of the lectures your colleague already contact to me that, so I appoint Rafi as a coordinator of the class. Okay, so all information will be the responsibility of the coordinator of the class. Okay, do you agree, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the Rafi is the coordinator of a class. Therefore, then I would like to continue. So on the outline of this lecture, first we are talking about the introduction, and the second one is several convention. They are considering new convention, for instance, the ballast water management convention and hazardous noxious substances convention. And there is another one, the Hong Kong International Convention, the convention which already prepared by the government of Indonesia to ratify the convention. They are make some study on the possibility to ratify the Hong Kong International Convention. And the other one is Nairobi International Convention Removal Reg. And also there is a EEOI and EEDI. EEOI stand for Energy Efficiency Operational Index, and EEDI stands for Energy Efficiency Design Index, And also there is another one that cutting sulfur 2020 and the others. So the lecture of the futures change and international legislation is basically the future legislation which will be coming up. So it is important to understand what kind of the future convention. If you look at this convention, ballast water management convention is basically the the new convention, but the ballast water management convention is basically already ratified by the government. But you should know how to ratify and what kind of equipment have to prepare to deal with the ballast water management convention. So this is some source which is possible to be find out. Yeah, in the www.imo.org is a very important website and information to know the future trend on the future convention, which is probably will be coming out. Yeah, coming up. Yeah. Then this one is some of a review in sulfur 2020. Yeah, there is a cutting sulfur oxide emission. So, and basically is the sulfur oxides. One of the way to reduce the sulfur oxide emission is not using the is not using the high content sulfur, but the most important one is to get the lower sulfur content to be utilized by the main engine. As you know that the crude oil content sulfurs with following combustion engines is basically are known to be harmful to human health. For instance, causing respiratory symptoms and lung disease. And in on the other, moreover, SOX also can lead to acid rains, which can harm crop, forest, and aquatic species, and also contribute to the acidification of the ocean. Therefore, reducing the emission as SOX is very important. Another one, another way is also possible that um, to make some treatment to the fuel oil, yeah, to give him some treatment. Or the other one is also is possible utilizing another fuel instead of heavy fuel oil. Okay, for instance, LNG and the other fuel oil in order to get cutting sulfur oxide emission. The cutting sulfur oxide emission is already implemented in 2020 January. So it is very important. You have to bear that in mind. And another issue is enhancing fishing vessels safety to the safe life. Yeah. Um, there is another convention called Tori Molinos Conventions, but it's very few countries already ratified this convention. And Tori Molinos, if you are or if we are with the convention, is basically is similar with the SOLAS, but SOLAS is not specific to the fishing vessel. But Torremolinos is basically the vessel safety specifically for fishing vessels. Okay, that is the issue. Then another one, there is another issue is a ship noise. Yeah, when a ship is proceeding to the sea, yeah, float in the sea, and there is an engine operated. It also possible to generate the noise, and the ship noise is can have negative impact on both human and marine life. Yeah, so it's also there is considered as another pollution instead of air pollution. This one is noise pollution. There is another issue. And there is also another issue called marine litter. Yeah. Marine litter, if you have a look, this one, marine litter is basically also marine plastic. Yeah. The pollutant which is coming from the plastic. Yeah. So this is also big problem in the world. It's not only Indonesia, but also in the world. Then the challenge is how is possible to utilize or to reducing the plastic pollution. Yeah. So if you have some ideas for final examination, this is also one of the uh, good idea. How is possible to reducing the pollution which is coming from the plastic? If you have a look at one, marine litters is basically presents a huge problem in our ocean, with some scientific warning that by 2050 the quantity of plastic in the ocean will outweigh fish. Yeah. Uh, then the IMO and others organization have been taking action to address the problem. How is basically to solve the problem. So making some regulation, then including regulation the discharge of garbage from ship and supporting research work. So this is also we have to thinking for the sustainable life. How is possible to uh, reducing the number of pollution or which are coming from the plastic. Yeah. Okay, those basically the issue is coming up, and this is some key IMO convention. It's not considered new, but you should know that there is many IMO convention which is already entry into force and also already implemented. So the key IMO convention, they are first is SOLAS 1974, yeah, is International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea 1974 as amended. And the second one is International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ship 1973 as modified by the Protocol of 1978, yeah, relating thereto and by the Protocol 1997. So this one is MARPOL, yeah, MARPOL 1973. And the last, the key IMO convention is STCW, Standards of Training Certification of Watchkeeping for Seafarers, including 1995 and 2010 Manila Amendments. So this one is a Manila Amendment 2010 is considered the new STCW. In addition, there are many conventions relating to maritime safety and security and ship or port interface. For instance, COLREC 1972, which is relating to the prevention collisions, international regulation for prevention collision, and also there is a FALS, Facilitation of International Maritime Traffic 1965, and International Convention on Lot Line 1966, SAR 1979, and there is also SUA Convention, Convention for the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against the Safety of Maritime Navigation, and so on. Okay, in SOLAS chapter, SOLAS is basically there are 12 chapters, yeah. This one is in the source with already taken. Yeah. This one is the general provision is basically relating to how to conduct the survey, documentation, and prostate controls. Then chapter 2 is relating to construction, subdivision, and stability, machinery, and electrical installation. And chapter 2-2 is fire protection, fire detection, and fire extinction. There is this one. Chapter 3 is life-saving appliances and arrangement, yeah, survival craft, LSA, and so on. Chapter 4 is relating to the radio communication, GMDSS, other radio equipment, and radio personnel. And chapter 5 is safety of navigation, navigation warning, pilot transfer, and steering gear, what is that? And chapter 6 is carrier of cargo, MSDS, loading, unloading, uh, or stowing and green cargo. Chapter 7 is carrier of dangerous cargoes. Then chapter 8 is nuclear ships. Chapter 9 is management for the safe operation of ship, which is including ISM code, certification, and verification. And already in chapter 9, then there is some detailed explanation in ISM code. Chapter 10 is high-speed craft code. Yeah. Chapter 11, 1 and 2, special measure to enhance maritime safety and security, which is basically relating to ISPS code. Then chapter 12 is additional safety measure for bulk carriers. Yeah. There is a damage stability or structural range, strength, survey, or water ingress outline. So those is basically there are 12 chapters in this case. And for the Marpol, the key there is a six, yeah, six chapter, yeah. If you have a look, Annex 1 is relating to prevention of pollution by oil. And if you have a look, this one, Annex 1 until Annex 6, those are already ratified and already by Indonesian government and already entry into force. Yeah. Annex 2 is regulation for the control of noxious liquid substances in bulk. Annex 2, yeah, and enter into force October 2nd, 1983. Annex 3 is prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried by sea in package form, July 1st, 1992. Annex 4 is the prevention of pollution by sewage from ships. Yeah. Annex 5 is prevention of pollution by garbage from ships. This one is also relating to marine litter. Yeah. And the pollution which is coming from the plastic. And Annex 6 is prevention of oil pollution from ship. Yeah. This is the air pollution. So the MARPOL is basically there are 6 annex in this case. And another conventions also there is a international for safe containers, then convention on international maritime satellite organization. This one is Tori Molinos, safety of fishing vessels. Yeah, and there is also STCWF, a standard of training certification on watchkeeping for fishing vessel personnel 1995. And also there is a special trade passenger ship 1971 and protocol and space requirement for special trade passenger ships. And there is also other convention relating to prevention of marine pollution. It is called as intervention convention. The intervention on the high sea in the case of oil pollution casualties. So if you see this one, there is also dumping convention, yeah, dumping of waste and other matters, OPRC convention, OPRC HNS, and there is anti-fouling system. There is another new, considered new convention is ballast water and sediment, but it's not really new. Then ship recycling, this one, Hong Kong International Convention for Safe and Environmentally Sound Recycling of Ship 2009 is considered a very new convention. There is a CLC 1969 and FUN 1993. This one is a convention covering liability and compensation convention. Yeah, this one, maritime carrier of nuclear, carrier of passenger, LMC, HNS convention, bunker oil pollution damage, removal of wreck, and so on. So this one is relating to liability or compensation convention. What is basically convention covering liability and compensation is basically to give the regulation to compensate to the victim. Yeah, just in case, for instance, a ship is causing some pollution, the oil pollution, the issue will arise how much money shall be paid by, shall be paid by the ship owner, just in case the ship owner is liable to deal with the oil pollution. Those regulation is covering in liability and compensation convention. There are many: CLC, fund, nuclear carrier of passenger, and so on. And the other subject is International Convention on Tonnage Measurement of Ship and Salvage Convention. Tonnage measurement of ship is basically to measure the gross tonnage on the ships. Yeah, the gross on it then will relating to the tax which shall be paid by the owner, to the owner. There are so many tax. When a ship come to the port, there is tax. Yeah, I mean that there is a port tax over there. They have to pay. The ship shall pay. Yeah, when a ship passing through the Panama Canal or Suez Canals, is also ship shall pay the our toll fee in this case. So toll fee is basically according to gross tonnage, yeah, and so on. The Self-Aid Convention is basically relating to regulate the self-aids. Self-aids mean that one of the way to taking some shipwreck or maintaining the shipwreck is one of regulation that concerning that matter. So the principle basically for the Self-Aid Convention is no cure, no pay. It means that when the for already is successfully to take the shipwreck, then the normally the insurance or the ship owner will pay to the seller. So the principle is no cure, no pay. If it's not possible to cure, then it's not possible to be paid by the ship owner. Okay, so why the futures change and international legislation is very important. I will give you very important history. Yeah, all of you probably knows this case. Yeah, this one is the surviving disaster, the case of Titanic. Yeah. So if you see this one, SOLAS is the first adopted in 1914. SOLAS is coming up after the Titanic case. Yeah, after the Titanic case. That is the issue. When after the Titanic, there are so many changing of the regulation. For instance, there is a evacuation this one, evacuation equipment like this one. Yeah? And this is also that some uh, I mean some information have to be addressed. For instance, that public address system is appear. So then what is the message in this case because of the title? There are so many change of regulation because there is accident. Yeah. So many regulation is many amendment of regulation are uh, implemented is because of many accident happen. One of the accident, one accident come normally will be evaluated whether the regulation is not enough to deal with the accident. Then in order to minimize to reducing the next accident, normally then there is some improvement of the regulation. Okay, there is so that's why the regulation always change. Yeah? And this is the case of ballast water. Yeah, the ballast water. I will explain to you this one. So ballast water is basically when a ship is come to the port, and in this case is discharging cargo, which means there is no cargo. Normally, ballast water will be loading, yeah, will be loaded, yeah, will be leading to the ships. Then if you see this one, when ballast water is loaded, there are so many microorganisms uh, are taking in, yeah, are taking in to the ballast water tank. This one is cargo hold empty, is many ballast tank full, yeah, during voyage. Then at destination port, yeah, when loading a cargo at destination port, loading a cargo, the ballast water is discharged. In this case, the new microorganism from the source port introduced to the destination port. So there is then the problem is the possibility is that the new species is introduced in at destination port. So that is the problem in this case. Yeah. Therefore, ballast water convention is coming in order to introducing the new microorganism to another places. There are so many systems to removing uh, ballast microorganism from the ballast water. Okay, and this is also considered the ship recycling. Yeah, this one name is Hong Kong International Convention for the Safe and Environmentally Sound Recycling of Ship. If you say, look at this one, they are environmentally friendly disposal of all ship. But the problem is in this case, safety issue of the workers, yeah, and hazardous material because there are so many hazardous material inside to the ship. Therefore, the safety issue for the worker also very important. If you have a look at this one, there are not so many people. There no people are utilizing safety shoes and so on. So this one is a very dangerous condition and very dangerous for the worker. Therefore, this convention is basically to protect to the peoples and to prevent to the I mean, how to say this one, to prevent the pollution from the ship recycling. And as you know that if you are some of you may join to the one of the lectures on the workshop of ship recycling, it's quite very interesting actually. So in Indonesia, the government is basically deny ship recycling yard, yeah, or a shipyard for ship recycling, because the problem is they are will be causing the pollution to the coastal, of course, and also it's not safe for the worker. But there is also another issue, economic issue. Yeah? It's very interesting. There is an economic issue. If there are so many shipyards for ship recycling in the Indonesia area, then there will be many workers involved in the ship recycling or shipyard for the recycling. But the most important issue is basically for the safety issue for the worker. How the worker is possibly safe to deal with the ship recycling content as for the ship recycling of ships. Then, and there are also another issue is there are so many uh, old ships operated in Indonesian water. So it's basically Indonesian government probably needs the shipyard for ship recycling, because it's also possible to promote the economically, and but the on the other hand we have to also concern with the safety and environmental issues. So this is some video, yeah, it's quite very interesting.
30 years. But do you know what happens after that? What happens to the ship when it retires after completing its lifespan? Or how does a ship die? So after completing its lifespan, a ship is sent to ship scrap yards, where its parts are broken and sold as scrap. These scrap yards also known as ship graveyards.
So after a ship is not operated, it's not efficiency to be operated. So ship is required to be recycled.
Ship breaking or ship demolition is a type of ship disposal, involving the breaking up of ships for either a source of parts, which can be sold for reuse, or for the extraction of raw materials, mainly scrap. Ship breaking allows the materials from the ship, especially steel, to be recycled and made into new products. This lowers the demand for mined iron ore and reduces energy use in the steel making process. India, Bangladesh, China and Pakistan have the highest market share and are global centers of ship breaking, with Chittagong Ship Breaking Yard in Bangladesh, Along in India and Gadani in Pakistan being the largest ships graveyards in the world. The ship breaking yards of India, Bangladesh, China and Pakistan employ 225,000 workers, as well as providing many indirect jobs. In Bangladesh, the recycled steel covers 20% of the country's needs, and in India it is almost 10%. The decommissioning process is entirely unsafe in most of the countries, especially in developing countries. The process starts with an auction, for which the highest bidder wins the contract. The shipbreaker then acquires the vessel from the international broker, who deals in outdated ships. After completing the required document proceedings, ships are run ashore on gently sloping sand tidal beaches at high tide, so that they can be accessed for disassembly. Then the process starts. It takes 50 laborers about 3 months to break down a normal-sized cargo vessel of about 40,000 tons. The decommissioning begins with the draining of fuel and firefighting liquid, which is sold to the trade. Any reusable items, wiring, furniture and machinery are sent to local markets or the trade. Unwanted materials become inputs to their relevant waste streams. Sledgehammers and oxyacetylene gas torches are used to cut up the steel hull. Cranes are not typically used on the ship. Because of costs, pieces of the hull simply fall off and are dragged up on the beach, possibly aided with a winch or bulldozer. These are then cut into smaller pieces away from the coast. Working at ship scrapping yards is very difficult, as well as very deadly. 70% of ships are simply run ashore in developing countries for disassembly, where asbestos, lead, polychlorinated biphenyls and heavy metals pose a danger for the workers. Burns from explosions and fire, suffocation, mutilation from falling metal, cancer, and disease from toxins are regular occurrences in the industry. Many are injured from explosions when flammable gas is not removed from fuel tanks. In Bangladesh, a local watchdog group claims that one worker dies a week, and one is injured per day on average. Shipbreaking has also become an issue of environmental concern. Many shipbreaking yards in developing nations operate with lax or no environmental law, enabling large quantities of highly toxic materials to escape into the general environment, and causing serious health problems among shipbreakers, the local population, and wildlife.
Okay, so that is the overview of the how is the shipyard for ship recycling works. If you have a look at these figures, the video, basically the video is shows that uh, it is very dangerous work, and also there are so many workers is not utilizing safe equipment and also safe clothes in this case. Okay, so there is another the futures of the ship of the futures, because no battery or or hybrid and unmanned vessel is considered the issue. Then if there is some new invention like this one, yeah, autonomous ships and ship which is not utilizing again the fuel oil system but utilizing battery, then the new regulation will coming up. Okay, so then what, when and why and how regulation shall be implemented for the future's technology. Okay, let me inform to you, for instance, that you for ship with this autonomous ship, there is no any single regulation is ready to be implemented. The classification society also there is not yet prepared, it's not yet available, it's not yet available the regulation to face the future technology. Autonomous vessel will be relating to the competency of the crew, because the crew will be have another competency. For instance, how to operate it remotely uh, for the ships. So the person on the port and the ship will be going and proceeding to another place and will be operated remotely. So then there is another way, the competency of the crew, and also will be different. It's not similar with today seafarer, that the future seafarer will be coming up. There is considered as also another new issue instead of another issue. How about the battery, for instance? How to prepare the battery? How about the pollution from the battery? Is also have to be taken into account relating to the power from the battery, and so on and so on. I suppose there is enough for today lecture. Do you have any question?